When my childhood best friend asked if I wanted to date, I didn't hesitate to kick her away. In my past life, because of her, I failed my college entrance exam. The anxiety and despair led me to choose suicide. In this life, she flaunted her relationship with a class heartthrob in front of me. I, on the other hand, pulled out my acceptance letter from Columbia University and slapped it right in her face. "Tim, won't you be with me?" I looked up and locked eyes with Lisa. Her slightly innocent face instantly brought back memories. Last time, she dumped me over and over, leaving me with severe anxiety. After failing my exam, I hopelessly chose suicide. The whirlwind of emotions made my head spin. I took a deep breath and slapped the girl in front of me. "Lisa, just because you don't study doesn't mean I don't." As soon as I finished, laughter exploded around me. A boy with a disdainful look mocked, "With your low grades, what's the point in saying you study? Lisa's professing her love, and you're not satisfied? After graduation, marry and have kids, and then you can enjoy a lifetime of luxury you can never earn." Right then, a boy, jealous that Lisa liked me, chimed in sarcastically, "With just your looks, what'll you do when a better-looking guy catches Lisa's eye? You'll regret it." I clenched my fists so tight my knuckles cracked. Lisa, holding her cheek, was persistent. "Tim, I'll give you time. Think it over." I lowered my gaze, a sarcastic grin creeping on my face. For now, she's chasing after me. But once that transfer student arrives, she'll be torn between us. Lucky for me, there's still time. During night study, the class teacher suddenly announced a weekly test. Lisa wasn't in the classroom. The class monitor, a bit anxious, tapped my desk. "Tim, you and Lisa are close. Could you find her and tell her to come back for the test?" To my classmates, Lisa treated me differently. The usually fiery-tempered girl never raised her voice to me. If she pissed me off, she was the first to apologize. To her, I seemed like someone special. Facing the monitor, I calmly replied, "Sorry, I have no idea where she is." "No way. Doesn't she practically worship you? Whatever you guys have going on, you can't ignore this test. The principal's personally supervising." I dropped my head, focused on my test. "It really has nothing to do with me. Please don't ever ask me about her again." Halfway through study hall, Lisa finally strolled in. She accidentally bumped my desk, causing a pink love letter to slip out, with Alex written on the cover. I ignored it, diving back into my chemistry synthesis problem, deducing on scrap paper until I found the answer. A furious kick to the desk echoed behind me. Some time later, someone appeared at the classroom door. Thinking it was the principal, I glanced up. It was Alex. He glanced at Lisa, flashed a shy smile, and laid something on the ground before running away, a bit embarrassed. Lisa stood and walked over, raising her arm towards me. "Tim, look, I'm hurt. Couldn't be bothered." Lisa tugged at my uniform, pleading, "Are you mad because I fought? I promise it won't happen again. I just hate seeing them bully others." I nearly snapped the pencil in my hand. She has a privileged background to rely on. Me? I've got nothing and just want to study and change my fate. I don't want anything to do with her. In anger, I shockingly pushed her hand away. Unexpectedly, Lisa slammed her own hand into the wall near me, injuring herself as blood oozed out. The scene startled me to the core. With a cold laugh, she picked up what Alex had left at the door and walked away. Alex transferred to our class. The teacher sat him next to Lisa. This abrupt change made Lisa jump up, her voice tinged with urgency. "Mr. Teacher, I don't need a seatmate." She said this while glancing at me, a mix of unexplainable panic in her eyes. Alex, looking uncomfortable, whispered, "But this is the only spot left. I promise I won't bother you. Let me sit here, please." Since Lisa was a top student, the teacher often granted her special privileges. Even if she insisted on sitting alone, she could get it. Lisa hesitated, but ultimately held back and accepted the seating. Alex, sticking to her like glue, became a fixture. At first, Lisa would drop by to reaffirm her loyalty. But as time went on, she was utterly captivated by Alex, inevitably falling for him. Once again, I watched her fall for someone else. This time, I'd stay out of it. All I have to do is use my time wisely and focus on my studies. I figured our ties had ended just like that. But some folks just can't stay away. A rumor about Alex blew up on the school's confession wall, also posted on the school's bulletin board. It claimed his private life was messy, that he had an STI, and that he'd had surgery forcing him to repeat a year, eventually transferring to our school. When I heard this, I hadn't even stepped into class before Lisa yanked my backpack and dragged me away. With a dark expression, she coolly demanded, "Did you do this?" I shook her off, retorting, "What's your problem? I couldn't care less about you too." Turning to leave, Lisa grabbed my arm. The more I pulled, the tighter she held. "Tim, apologize to Alex and I'll forget about this." She continued, "We can go back to how things were. After the public apology, I promise there won't be trouble. Disgracing a guy's reputation like this seriously let me down." My stomach suddenly started churning nonstop. Covering my mouth, I took a few steps back. "Lisa, you make me sick." As soon as I spoke, Lisa's expression grew dark. She stepped forward deliberately, gritting her teeth with each word. "Tim, don't mistake my tolerance as something you can keep pushing. You better bow your head, apologize, and this will all go away. If you don't, I won't be able to protect you. I don't get it. I've tried so hard to stay away, yet they just won't leave me alone. Lisa, I won't apologize for something I didn't do. You'll regret it, Tim," she snapped. Quickly, I realized what Lisa meant by regret. My scholarship got taken away. Someone told the school leadership that I had bad character and wasn't worthy of it. I'm just an ordinary student, coming from a small town to study here. My parents work elsewhere, and every semester, I rely on the scholarship to survive. That unexpected news left me shaking all over. After the class rep read the scholarship list, he looked at me cautiously. "Tim, are you all right? Maybe you should talk to the homeroom teacher?" It was like I just woke up. I stumbled toward the office. The homeroom teacher was marking papers. I stood in front of him for a while before he looked up. "Tim, if you're here about the scholarship, there's no point. The scholarship was given to you because of your family situation, plus it's based on grades. If you can't manage your own affairs, don't come to me. If you score in the top 3 of the class, earn it fair and square, who can question you? Don't blame others if you don't try." At that moment, I felt utterly desolate, like every sound around me disappeared. I don't remember how I got back to the classroom, but I must have looked awful. The helplessness had me collapsing to the floor. Since being reborn, I've had one thing on my mind. I must get into a top school. Subconsciously, I know it's crucial for me. If I miss it, I'd regret it deeply. My grades aren't great, and if I have to split my attention working part-time to make a living, it might crush my dreams entirely. Despair hung over me like a heavy cloud, making it hard to breathe. "Tim?" Lisa's voice was raspy. "Giving up? Ready to apologize?" I hung my head, speechless. She looked at my reddened eyes and smirked. "If you'd listened earlier, this could have been avoided." Her words cut like a knife, draining the color from my face. "But I really need the scholarship." In a low voice, I begged, "Tell me, what do I have to do for you to leave me alone?" "Apologize." Lisa's eyes were cold, lacking any warmth. My mind was a mess, nearly unable to function. For some, just living is a massive challenge. I bit my lip, forcing out the words hoarsely. "Fine, I apologize." I followed Lisa to Alex, swallowing, "Sorry, I was jealous and did wrong. I won't do it again. Please forgive me." Bowing, I felt my dignity shatter with it. Lisa felt a pang of guilt seeing my meekness. Before she spoke, I continued, "Is this apology adequate? Do I need to kneel?" Alex looked really wronged. "Tim, I know you used to be close with Lisa, but stop that now. Come on, Alex, forgive him." Lisa quickly reassured him, while I gathered what little dignity I had left and quietly walked away. If my grades were good enough, maybe I could avoid this humiliation. In the end, this is partially my fault. I'm not willing to endure this again. With no one shielding me, I'll learn to be strong on my own. With no one showing me love, I'll learn self-love. While Lisa and Alex flaunt their romance, I'm digging deep, studying hard, determined to erase past embarrassment with each exam score. When the monthly test results came out, I was thrilled to see I jumped up about 12 spots in the rankings. Even those subjects I usually failed in, I passed. That moment filled me with unparalleled satisfaction. Though the progress wasn't massive, I finally recaptured my focus on learning. Looking back to when I first came from the town to this top city high school, my grades dropped from top tier to bottom feeder, plagued by panic and self-doubt. My once proud identity seemed to vanish overnight. The mocking and ridicule from classmates made it even harder to concentrate on studying. Back then, Lisa became my emotional support. But I foolishly shifted my focus from academics to romance, which was a huge mistake. When the grades were released, Lisa looked visibly upset since hers had taken a nosedive. In contrast, Alex remained comfortably in the top 3. Patting Lisa on the shoulder, he comforted, "Don't worry. It's just a blip. See, no matter how much your childhood buddy burns the midnight oil, he can't match your easy success." With a smirk, Alex added, "After all, talent can't be coerced." Then he offered, "Chin up, let's unwind a bit. An old friend of mine's in town. I'll introduce you. It'll boost your future prospects." Lisa visibly relaxed, affectionately running her fingers through Alex's hair, whispering, "Glad I have you." Meanwhile, I'm still drowning in a sea of practice papers, tearing through 4 sets in one night. Lisa and Alex wear their love like a badge of pride. They share dramatic kisses in the rain, defy teachers only to cut class, exchange love notes every day, and run the 800-meter race together in PE. It's like the classmates are NPCs in their love story. They only showed off for a few days before the homeroom teacher caught on to their early romance due to their overly affectionate behavior. But the teacher just called them out for a brief chat and didn't dive too deep into it. After all, when 2 top students in the grade start dating, the teacher just asked them to not let it affect their grades and turned a blind eye. Troublemakers and top students sure get different treatments. As I was buried in my seat writing away on a test paper, Lisa suddenly marched up to me. The look in her eyes felt like she was out for blood. "Tim, why can't you learn? Why do you keep pulling these childish stunts?" Lisa interrogated. I was completely clueless about what she was on about. Before I could defend myself, Lisa furrowed her brows and said, "I admit, it was wrong of me to lose interest, and I didn't keep our promise when we were kids. The last time, I even talked Alex out of getting back at you. He's so innocent and kind, but why are you sneaking around telling on us?" The entire class gave me a look of contempt and disdain right after hearing that. Honestly, knowing her feels like the unluckiest thing that's happened to me in this life. The shadow she left from last time still hadn't disappeared. I subconsciously wanted to avoid her, but then I remembered my scholarship had already been deposited for this semester. Based on my progress, I should be able to earn it on my own next semester. Suddenly, I wasn't scared anymore. I snapped back at her. "Lisa, stop losing it over nothing." Lisa angrily retorted, "Tim, still playing innocent? At the last parents' meeting, a lot of classmates saw you talking to Alex's mom for ages. If it wasn't you, then who? Alex actually has someone looking out for him. His mom's strict. She's been holding him accountable about the relationship for a while now." My anger flared up instantly. My hands tingled, and it felt like my chest was about to explode. It was the same in the past life. Lisa constantly siding with Alex because of those ambiguous things he said. They'd go to the library without me, saying it was too hard for me to keep up with their studies. The few times we'd hang out, Alex would tag along, and they'd be laughing while I felt like the third wheel. I was so tormented I wanted to split, but Lisa accused me of overthinking and caring too much. Then she'd suddenly be nice again. She wouldn't let me go while being inseparable from Alex. I was trembling with rage, my anger roaring like wildfire within. "Lisa, I couldn't care less about you too." That day, it was his mom who stopped and questioned me out of the blue. "You two flaunt so much. The only thing left is to announce your relationship over the principal's head. I'd rather not call 911 if you two collapsed in front of me. I'm not wasting time tattling on you. Two drama queens disturbing my studies." I got up and gave her a slap. "Lisa, disturb me again, and I'll slap you again with everything I've got. Who do you think you are? Why should I revolve around your world? Am I supposed to accept your affection just because you have it? You act like you're gold or something. I must have been doomed from the start for knowing you. You think you're better now because you've got money? Weren't you living in that dingy alley back then? And when those kids bullied you, who was it that took you in? Lisa was stunned silent from that slap, turned quiet. Her story's complicated. She was deliberately abandoned by her stepmother. When she roamed near my place, it was me who took her in out of kindness. My family wasn't wealthy, but we never let her go hungry. When her family took her back, she promised to return and find me. That Tim, wait for me till I grow up, had now become, Tim, it's my fault. Once I was all she saw, but now she looks at me as if I'm some kind of villain. Getting close to finals, Lisa skipped class for a racing event. Unfortunately, as a newbie, she lost control at a bend, crashed into a barrier post, and got rushed to the hospital. The birthday surprise she was planning for Alex went up in smoke, almost turning into a tragedy. Lisa came out of that accident with one arm and one leg broken. I shouldn't have known this, but one of Alex's admirers had to brag right in front of me about Lisa's love for Alex. I wasn't bothered. I just picked up my workbook and found a quiet place to keep studying. Over 2 months, I systematically reviewed all the stuff I'd learned. Now I could manage a 60% accuracy on a full practice test. Meanwhile, my phone was blowing up with texts from Lisa. She wanted me to visit her and said she missed the meat porridge I made. I quietly blocked her number. On my way home, I caught a glimpse of a figure in the shadows. Lisa was struggling with crutches, almost falling over because of her haste. I looked on, expressionless. With enormous effort, she stumbled breathlessly over to me, trying to steady her voice though she was all choked up. Tim, why didn't you come see me in the hospital? I almost died. Do you know, when the car crashed with blood dripping down my face, I remembered those days living with you in that alley. I listened quietly, but not a single emotion stirred within me. I had come to realize the truth that she loved herself the most. Some people, meeting them isn't fate. It's a calamity. Lisa was my calamity. Leaving her made my grades better, future clearer. She gazed hard at me, a trace of hope and plea mixed with her despair. I'll break up with him? So can we make up? Please? I tugged at the corner of my mouth. No, I don't want to. Didn't want it then, don't want it now, definitely won't want it in the future. Lisa's fingers trembled a bit, her gaze dropping dejectedly, lashes lightly trembling. Her pitiful look didn't move me. I was hoping she'd leave soon so I could rush home and keep getting in some reps on those practice problems. Every problem I solved gave me fulfillment, whereas one more word with Lisa felt like wasting precious time. Lisa shot me one last searching look, finally muttering, Tim, I was in the wrong. Alex, sneaking from behind Lisa, eyed me as if trying to see right through. I couldn't figure why he was focusing on me now, always giving me those unnerving glares. I carefully avoided any contact with him. But peace lasted only a few days before something else happened. The vice class president, with tears in her voice, said, the money the teacher asked me to keep for buying workbooks is missing. Just then, a classmate mentioned casually, during gym class I saw Tim go back to the classroom. Instantly, everyone's eyes were on me. How can you just ask him and expect him to admit it? You gotta tell the teacher. If he denies it then he's got nothing to stand on, someone piped up. Right, we can have students with bad grades in our class, but we can't tolerate theft, another voice chimed in. Alex, resting his chin on his palm, said with a hint of sarcasm, Tim, even if it's not a lot of money, you can't steal. If you've already spent it, just apologize to everyone. I know your family's struggling and I can help cover it, but you need to give the class an explanation. Lisa tried to stand up on her crutches to speak, but Alex silenced her with a sharp look. She lowered her head. Maybe when Tim's backed into a corner, she'll step in, and he'll forgive her for everything. They could make things right again. The homeroom teacher walked in from outside. He glanced around and asked, what are you all doing gathered here? What's going on? After hearing what happened, he frowned. Some people in this class don't know the meaning of shame. There's a camera in this classroom, you know. Don't you have any self-respect? Suddenly, the teacher threw a piece of chalk at me, hitting me on the head. He was clearly furious, yelling, "Can't you tell I'm talking about you? Teaching a student like you is such a disgrace." I gave a slight smile. It wasn't me. Check the cameras. The teacher's voice became even sharper. The money was still there before gym class. Only you came back to the classroom. The evidence is right here, so what are you denying? I flipped the desk suddenly. Teacher, there's a camera. Go check it if you want to catch someone. I'm not accepting these baseless accusations. The teacher's anger reached its peak. Is it that hard to admit you're wrong? Who are you flipping the desk at? Do you think this is your house? No matter what I did, he could always find fault with it. To people who dislike me, even breathing is a mistake. I looked directly at him, then call the cops on me. Are poor students always the scapegoats? I already texted the police with my smartwatch. If I don't get a public apology from the whole school, I'll block the principal's office every day, and if it doesn't work, I'll hang myself in front of him. You said I'm ill-mannered? I'll show you what true ill manners look like. The teacher's face finally showed panic. I rushed straight to the edge of the fourth-floor balcony. I'll wait here for the police to clear my name. The teacher snapped back to reality and took a step forward, shouting, "Tim, calm down. What are you trying to do?" "I don't accept slander," I shouted back, exasperated. Lisa watched me precariously on the edge of the balcony, feeling her heart sink. Then a sharp pain and overwhelming confusion washed over her. With red-rimmed eyes and a hoarse voice, she pleaded, "Tim, it's too dangerous there. Come down. I believe you didn't take it. Don't be afraid. I'll take all the responsibility," he added urgently. But I just gave him a cold look filled with disdain. Lisa froze, as if a cold wind had penetrated his collar, chilling him to the bone. Hearing the commotion, all the teachers on the fourth floor rushed over. Even the usually slow school principal made his way to me as fast as he could. In the end, it was the timely arrival of the police that convinced me to return to safety. The school leaders and the police reviewed the surveillance footage together. The footage showed a figure quietly entering the classroom, heading straight to the deputy class president's desk, casually rummaging through her desk, then taking out a bulky envelope. That person turned out to be Alex. Once the truth was revealed, the teacher tried to defend himself, saying, "This is just a misunderstanding among classmates, and I didn't handle it well. I was just too anxious." I glanced hopelessly at the police, then rolled my eyes back, falling unconscious. Screams erupted from around me. When I woke up again, I was lying in a hospital ward. The principal, running a hand through his thinning hair, said to me, "Your homeroom teacher has already been fired. As for Alex, he's faced disciplinary action from the school. Kid, this is the best outcome. Don't be too stubborn. The school has arranged the highest scholarship for you as compensation," he comforted. Listening to the principal, I pressed my lips together. This went better than I expected, but I still felt powerless. Being rich and being poor really are two different worlds. If I hadn't made a big deal about it, Alex's family could have just thrown some money at the school to settle it. Luckily, I won this ridiculous ordeal. Back at school, I thought I'd still have to face Alex, but both he and Lisa had transferred. The night before Lisa transferred, she was waiting for me downstairs at my place. She said she had a lot she wanted to tell me. I peeked at her lonely figure in the cold wind through the window and then closed the curtains. She had the energy to talk, but I wasn't interested in listening. Now, even looking at her makes me sick. It's hard to believe I once thought of her as my life savior. That night, I slept soundly. The next morning, when I was getting ready for school, I found a letter stuck in my door. It was from Lisa. She apologized to me and mentioned that Alex was mentally unstable now because of a scar on his face. But she told me not to worry. She promised Alex wouldn't hurt me again. I skimmed over it, then tore the letter up and tossed it aside. She wanted to climb social ladders but stayed with Alex in the name of protecting me. How utterly absurd. The troublesome people were out of my life, and I focused all my energy on the upcoming exams. One practice paper after another filled my daily routine. I got lost in the fun of solving problems, and those red check marks next to my answers were the greatest validation. My grades steadily improved, and I gradually became known as a top student. Teachers from every subject praised me. The chemistry teacher patted my shoulder, encouraging me, "Keep this up, and getting into a top university won't be a problem. If you have higher goals, start doing recent year exams to get a feel for it." Feeling motivated, I nodded enthusiastically. Later, because of my outstanding performance that year, the head of a prestigious high school approached me. Just as we were talking, the principal hurried over. The principal looked at me, with eyes full of reluctance. But in the end, I agreed. I was really happy at the new school. The teachers here genuinely wanted to nurture top students, and all my classmates were working hard, getting the most out of every minute. This atmosphere kept pushing me to work even harder. At the 100-day pledge conference, I was even lucky enough to speak as an outstanding student representative. It felt like a promising future was enthusiastically waving at me. The next time I heard about Lisa was when it was almost exam time. I heard Alex didn't plan to take the exam and wanted to study abroad instead, hoping Lisa would go with him. But Lisa wanted to take the exam, and it caused a fierce argument between them. Alex even hid Lisa's exam admission ticket. I don't know if Lisa ever took the exam in the end. As for my college entrance exam, everything went really smoothly. I was pretty confident about all the questions I answered. If all goes well, getting into Columbia University shouldn't be a problem. In the moment before checking my score, I felt incredibly excited. 709 points. The moment I realized my hard work paid off, tears streamed down my face. Finally, everything I put in was rewarded. My life wasn't going to be like it was in the past. I turned the tables. That's when I realized I held the power over my own destiny. At that moment, a call from an unknown number interrupted my thoughts. The person on the other end hesitated before speaking. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard Lisa's voice. "Tim, which school are you going to?" I broke up with Alex. I scored 556. "Wherever you go, I'll go with you. Don't feel pressured. Even if it means working, I'm willing." She wanted to keep talking, but I interrupted her harshly. "If you want to work, go do it yourself. Lisa, I'm heading to Columbia University. Your score isn't close. Stop dreaming," I continued, "while you were enjoying dating, skipping class, and the thrill of speeding. I was studying hard. Now I've left you far behind." I heard sobbing on the other end. Lisa pleaded, "Tim, can't you forgive me this once? Please, give me another chance. My stepmom just had another child. I just wanted to have some edge over her. Did I really do wrong? I don't even know how things turned out like this. If you hadn't messed up my life, I wouldn't have failed the exam. I truly regret it. I shouldn't have been with her. I could have done better on the exam, and if not, I could retake it and get into Columbia next year." My voice was cold. "No, I won't forgive you, ever, Lisa. If you still remember our childhood friendship, don't come looking for me again. There shouldn't be any stains like this in my new life." With that, I hung up, breathing a sigh of relief. When Columbia University's acceptance letter arrived, it felt like a cold announcement from a distant time echoed in my ears. "Congratulations, host. You've successfully completed the difficult task of changing your fate." This sudden declaration filled my head with a buzzing noise. The system confirmed all data were accurate, rewarding me with precious memory fragments, which were about to be released. A mysterious voice echoed in my mind. Lost pieces of memory are slowly unlocking. With the sound of subtle and crisp breaking fragments, my ears were filled with a flood of past images, rushing at me like a tide, catching me off guard. The scenes before me flashed quickly, each one carrying the past I didn't want to face. I collapsed to the ground helplessly, my face pale as paper, and my lips quivering as I muttered my inner helplessness. Those strange abnormalities I had deliberately forgotten now made it hard for me to breathe. Why was I always alone? Why were my family's figures so blurred in my life, even absent in my most important moments? The answer was cruel and heartbreaking. I had already lost them. Tears, like broken beads, rolled down and hit the ground, turning into little flowers of sorrow. I couldn't hold back anymore and cried out in pain, my voice filled with despair and grief. Recalling that sealed memory, my parents were working out of town and one afternoon encountered a villain planning a revenge attack on society. The villain's car was about to crash into a group of kindergarten kids after school. At that moment, they didn't hesitate to crash their motorcycle into the vehicle's front, stopping the attack, but they died on the spot. Losing my parents made me timid and fragile. After failing my college exam, my only mental pillar, my grandma, also passed away from illness shortly after. I felt abandoned by the world at that time and chose to end my life in despair. A mysterious system made a deal with me, taking my accrued virtue in exchange for my rebirth. Wait, suddenly, I realized an alarming fact. Today is June 25th, and my grandma passed away suddenly from high blood pressure on the 27th. A wave of unprecedented hope and excitement surged through me, like grabbing onto a lifeline of destiny. I can still save Grandma. I rushed home to the farm as fast as I could, my heart filled with urgency and unease. When I saw her working hard in the field from a distance, an inexplicable wave of sadness overwhelmed me. I almost staggered toward her, fell to my knees in the mud, and couldn't squeeze out a word as if something gripped my throat. Grandma looked up in surprise, her kind eyes full of wonder. "Tim, why are you back so suddenly? Did something happen out there?" Her voice was filled with warmth and concern. "If you didn't do well, don't worry. Come back here, and Grandma will take care of you." I shook my head, tears welling up, and asked while choked up, "Grandma, would you blame me if I didn't do well?" Grandma smiled, warm as the sun in early spring. "Silly child, Grandma just wants Tim to be happy. That's more important than anything." At that moment, I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears flowed like a flood as I hugged Grandma tightly, repeatedly saying, "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm so sorry." Grandma gently patted my back, softly reassuring me, "Grandma's here." After calming down a bit, I insisted on taking Grandma to the hospital for a checkup. Even though she kept refusing, she eventually gave in. While waiting for the test results at the hospital, Grandma suddenly clutched her chest and said she couldn't breathe, and her legs started to go numb. My hands were shaking, and I frantically shouted at the nurse's station, "Is there a doctor? Somebody, please, get a doctor. Help my Grandma." Grandma was quickly rushed into the operating room. I stood outside by myself, a bundle of nerves, feeling like the whole world had come to a standstill. It wasn't until the doctor came out and told me Grandma was out of danger that my anxious heart finally settled down. Tears rolled down again, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. I had never been more thankful for all those years of studying hard. It allowed me to save my Grandma at a critical moment. Saved the only family I had. When Grandma's neighbor found out I got into Columbia University, they insisted on throwing a celebration party for me at the farm. I was busy inside and outside with my elderly Grandma, a wave of immense happiness washing over me. Guests kept coming. People were praising me for being so accomplished, and Grandma's face was lit up with joy. At the party, I said I was taking Grandma with me to New York. Grandma didn't want to go, but I told her the school gave me a lot of scholarships. We could definitely afford to live and we could always be together. Suddenly, a kid came bouncing over with a gift in his hand. He innocently said, "A sister asked me to give this to you." I smiled and patted his head gently. "You keep it. I don't need it." The kid's eyes sparkled with admiration. "Thanks. I want to get into the best university just like you." You definitely can," I assured him. I didn't pay attention to the person who should have disappeared from my life long ago. During my time at Columbia, I was fully immersed in my academic research. My advisor highly praised my efforts and accomplishments. With his dedicated guidance, I successfully published 3 research papers. As for Lisa, I never ran into her during my 4 years on campus. Later, I bumped into a high school classmate who told me she'd retaken a year but did worse. She ended up going abroad with Alex, who had returned home. Their lives overseas became more reckless. Alex embraced her true nature but stabbed Lisa on the day he caught her cheating. She barely survived. Alex was eventually detained for drug use and mental issues, while Lisa was completely abandoned by her father, struggling to survive abroad alone. Meanwhile, I continued my graduate studies at Columbia, reaching new heights in my life.